All right, so today, Shannon, let's talk a little bit deeper now about some common problems that we have with jumbo loans.
Right, so this is kind of the final part of our series in jumbo lending. I would say there's some issues that we run into the most frequently. A lot of them are not things that people think about that would be an issue. So the number one problem that I run into, and I know I mentioned it in our first video, but here, the number one problem I run into with jumbo loans is acreage. It is by far one of the things we have the most difficulty with. So, and I think it's just kind of a Montana thing, to be honest with you, because people come here because they want some space to live on, and so they're buying these more expensive properties largely because they want some acreage. Most of our investors cap at 10 acres, and that can be a problem. We do have some that go up to 40 acres, but there's just not as many of them. So you kind of have that moving component with jumbo where you try to find, like, okay, this one goes to 40 acres. Do you fit all the other parameters of their program? So that can be a challenging part of jumbo lending, is if you have one problem, say like larger amounts of acreage, then you have to make sure now you're down to say one or two investors that will do that, and you have to make sure that you fit all the rest of their mold, essentially. That can be the biggest challenge, but acreage is for sure number one thing that I run into troubles with here. Second, assets and reserves, I would say, can be challenging, largely because when you're putting 20% down on a jumbo loan, it's a lot of money, right? So we're using a lot of people's liquid assets frequently, and then having, showing that we have excess funds left over. That reserve requirement is going to get higher if it's a second home, if you are buying or if you own multiple properties, things like that. So keep that in mind. Having excess money, financial reserves left after closing is going to be important on a jumbo loan. Another one, self-employment can be a little bit challenging. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a problem. I would say it's something you need to be prepared for. So a lot of times we have borrowers who are self-employed, they do very well for themselves, and they don't understand why we are putting them through the ringer, right? They have tons of financial reserves. They are very, on paper, seemingly well-qualified candidates. Why are you asking me all these questions? I get it. We don't like it any more than you enjoy being asked the questions, but they, like I said, they have very specific parameters for what works and what doesn't work. And so we have to make sure that we fit into that bucket for the individual investor. So anyhow, we have to ask a lot of questions, and we have to go back. And if your tax returns are very complicated, sometimes we have to ask your CPA questions. So it's just stuff like that can be a little bit more challenging, I feel like, or frustrating as a borrower, particularly. Us, we try to just kind of keep it real, right? I'm not going to lie to you, it's not overly pleasant, but we get through it. So those, and it shouldn't deter you, but it definitely can be a frustration. Oh, I got another one.
Oh, great. Go ahead. Tell them.
Tax transcripts.
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's a good one.
Particularly this year, because the IRS extended how, so taxes, you had longer to file your tax returns. What was it, July 15th this year, something like that? So anyhow, people are filing a little bit later, and for self-employment, largely, we need to use the income. We need to have tax transcripts. The IRS is delayed because of COVID. So once you file your tax returns, it takes the IRS a while to process them, and for us to be able to pull tax transcripts on the IRS website. It creates problems with jumbo loans because a lot of times, especially when you're self-employed, people aren't filing till later because they have multiple tax returns, they have things going on, and then we try to pull tax transcripts and they don't come back. That is a problem for us on the jumbo realm. So then sometimes what happens is we have to go back farther. So now we're not using 2020 income, we're using 2018, 19. We're showing 20 to say, okay, they've made more money. It just makes things more complicated. So tax transcripts are kind of a big deal. If you are prepping to do a jumbo loan, you're gonna wanna file your tax returns as early in the process as possible so that we have that, excess time to get the tax transcripts back.
Absolutely. Reach out, talk to us. Lots of homework, lots of prep work, but we'll get you through it.